Well, I'm here with one of my great friends, Stephen Webb, or Swebb, as so I've been told. How are
That's
you,
right.
man?
I'm good, and it's definitely Swebb. No H, just Swebb. So you're doing good so far.
Just Swebb, baby. Let's go. And today I'm just gonna be asking you kind of some questions, and honestly,
Good.
as if I had 30 minutes to sit down with coffee with you, to
Yeah,
soak in some
love
of your
that.
knowledge. Because if I've learned from anyone in the past 2 years, it's been from you from afar of just looking at your
Mm,
social media posts and podcasts now and sending people to think less now because I'm already hooked. So appreciate you
good.
already and all the value you bring.
Cool, man. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So kind of jumping in, tell the listeners, viewers a little bit like, who are you? Who are you? What do you do? What have you done in the past 10, 15 years? Just so
Yeah.
we can kind of understand who you are.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Swebb. Everybody calls me Swebb, friends, family for the last about 12 years or so, but technically I'm Stephen Webb. And born and raised in Texas, took a lap around from Denver, Charlotte, Orlando, and now I'm back in Texas. We did that lap in about 12 years or so. Married for coming up on 15 years here in a couple weeks. I
Mm.
got a 7-year-old boy named Stellan and a 10-year-old girl named Summer, and they're great. We do a lot of really chill things. I'll pick them up from school today and we'll go to the pool, man. Like it's just that's kind of the life the last couple of years.
Yeah.
For I was born into a pastor's house or a minister's house, preacher, pastor, music guy, whatever, different
Mhm.
positions over the years, but I was born into that. And so that's not all I've done, but it's most of what I've done for the last 20-ish years or so is work on staff at a few churches. And then probably where I got to know the most amount of people and got to do some of the more fun things because we had a bigger budget was the 10 years I spent on staff at Elevation, of course. And then I still do a lot of church building, although now I'm just on my own, consulting, coaching church leaders, having conversations like this. I write a lot. I don't publish it anywhere. I just write a lot. So one of these days, maybe I'll turn that into something.
So,
So yeah, at the end of the day, though, I like to build the church, but I do it through
yeah.
building leaders who build teams who build the church.
Hmm. And I think that's something I really value about you because my background is not the church. So
Yeah,
I lead in the church, but not
yeah,
from a place of I've just been a part of it. I kind of have a different perspective of things. And I think
mhm.
that's why I've been able to glean so much from you is like it's not just the basic four principles to pastoral care, it's like we're
Yeah,
actually dealing with real people with real issues, but also very much
yes,
a real team and a real organization.
yeah.
And I love that as of recent, I've been hearing about the cliches that you're not too thrilled with. Um, and I'm an Enneagram 8 as well, so it always gets me fired up a little bit. But
It's good.
man, so I mean, even the past couple of years, you said you've been on your own. Like, what is something that you've been processing? Not really like being on staff, you kind of do your own thing, but helping a
Yeah,
macro level, like in the church world.
man. I feel like, and it took me a minute. I say a minute, took me a couple of years to figure out how to say it. But at the end of the day, if I have any sort of product that comes from me, it's
Mhm.
providing another way to think about things. I actually own, I think I still own the URL, another way to think about it.
Mm.
Um, so I don't prescribe a lot of 4 points and hey, do this one thing and take this pill and pray this prayer, and all of a sudden you're going to be an expert leader, church builder, or whatever the thing is.
Right.
I just both I feel like a pretty solid skill and an annoyance for some people is that I'm going to just make you think,
Mm.
and that's even why we kind of landed on that name for a fledgling podcast I'm on now called Thinkless. Is most people operate that way.
Yeah.
It's just like robots. So anyway, at the end of the day, I want to provide another way to think about it. And if people make bad decisions or decisions that go against what I would say or do, or that's fine. I just want to ask the question, but did you at least think about it? And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I do and how I do most of what I do. Tell a parent, same thing. I'm not the because I said so dad.
Right.
I'm like, hey man, if you think that's the best way as a 7-year-old to get ahead in life, hey, listen, bro, but did you think about it? So
Yeah.
I'll even parent that way a lot of times. So
It's
yeah,
incredible. Yeah. I mean, I didn't grow up in the church. So I've been a part of two different churches and just seeing you go to one and it's like, it's so different in the city and it's so different with the personality of the lead
yeah,
pastor. And I mean, even for you, like working with Elevation, like I'm familiar with, honestly, a couple of the guys that, like Greg and Parker and those guys that I'm listening to on your podcast.
Yeah.
You guys are just so brilliant. And I feel like there's something in that though, that there's been a consistently built people and leaders in that organization. What do you feel like is that defining factor? Because I mean, I'm on on Zoom calls with LB, and I'm like, this guy could make $20 million if he wasn't in the church world,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you feel like is that defining factor?
Yeah, that's a good question. So big fan of Elevation before, still a fan now. After now, obviously I live in Texas, but I still will say this, and I'll just put Elevation as the example, but I'll apply this elsewhere.
Right.
I don't know that any organization is good at it. It's just a collection of people who might be good at it. So you mentioned LB. Man, he says all the right things. He's seen a lot of stuff. He can lean into you pretty good and develop you. Probably further and faster than you could. Obviously, just stumbling down the street by yourself. Obviously, so
Right.
to your point, he's good. He's on that team. Greg's on that team. Some others. And so yeah, there's a collection of them. But just before I jump into my opinions on that or my thoughts on that, it's always good for everybody else that's not in that world, and especially doesn't understand the inside of Elevation or any other large church. You can say Life Church or Hillsong
Right.
or anywhere in between. It's not the organization. It's because I feel like sometimes that chalks it up a little bit. It's too simple to say that, and there's plenty of people who, of course, I won't say. There's plenty of people who aren't good at it at same organizations,
Yeah.
So all that to say, it takes an effort, some intentionality, some focus on it. Probably the answer that most people aren't thinking about to that question, like why it seems to work or how it did work at Elevation. An answer that I think most people, I don't even know if they would overlook it. They just don't think about it. Is focus, man. So one thing that probably drew me to Elevation years ago, years and years ago. I mean, that's probably like I'm coming up on maybe 15 or 16 years ago. I'd heard of Elevation 15 years ago.
Wow.
So was their insane, obnoxiously simple focus on doing 3, 4, 5 things. And they didn't have the coffee shop in the lobby, which is, sacrilegious. You can't possibly grow a church without coffee. Like, how in the world is that even possible? You can't do it. It's not possible. It's in the handbooks. You got to do it. Growth track type of things, long classes, the Saddleback class system, awesome system of the 80s and 90s. Nothing wrong with any of these things.
Right.
But somehow they were doing church without that. And being very effective at reaching a lot of people and keeping a lot of people and deploying those people into ministry, developing them and empowering them and all the things that you're talking about. But I think that allows for leaders to lead instead of manage and babysit ministry after ministry after ministry and meeting after meeting after meeting. If you only have to, connect with somebody, get to know them, you kind of merge and align mission and vision of their life and your life and the bigger organization's mission, and then move in the same direction. That's just, again, it's a lot easier to do if you're not babysitting 20 other ministries. So it's a long way to get to kind of answering your question, but man, that is a really good environment. And I'm saying simplicity, not just Elevation, but simplicity as a whole is a really great environment for, I think, developing better leaders where that's all they have to focus on. And that helps. I think LB's job, just to use him, his job for, I guess, as long as I've known him, he might have had a role in the org chart here or there, but the point is his job all along has been what you're calling development. That's all he's ever done. I did the same thing. My role, I've done a few different roles at the church and other churches, but generally speaking, it's like, man, how can I just hang out with Greg and tell Greg things that I know? Maybe he'll, latch onto something and make it better. I mean, Jesus just took a couple of dudes and said, let's go fishing for a little bit and roam around the countryside for a couple of years. They didn't have meetings. They didn't do class systems. They didn't do conferences. They just kind of were like, hey, let's hang out for a little bit. And then, did it. And, again, I might be or I might sound like I'm oversimplifying all of this, but man, at the end of the day, the common thread there is, focus and simplicity that enables that development you're talking about.
No, it's great. I mean, you even think about like Chick-fil-A or Cane's. Like they're not adding items to the menu. Like they know what they're great at and they know how to replicate that. And it's more culture and the experience than sandwich is fire. Don't get me wrong. Like I could eat one every day. It's simple and to the point. And I think that is something that I've had to learn as a leader is my wife and I oversee like 10 plus teams, but it's like, well, that's cannot happen. So I need 10 plus leaders who think how, or see what we see even, not just like do what we do with our hands. We can set up pipe and drape all we want, but our team will die off in 6 months, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's
Um,
right. That's right.
for you, like what is something that you would give advice to for like retention on a team? So we have 150 people on our team. What advice would you give to somebody who's leading people? Because people are, at the end of the day, there's a churn rate, obviously, but the
Mhm.
best possible case scenario of how to keep them.
Yeah. Man, I can't come up with a harder or deeper answer than simply adding value.
Mm,
Like people won't leave the thing that provides them life. They're just not going to do it.
yeah,
And but I find a lot of leaders out there not providing life. We
right.
need you, bro. We need you. Or here's a gift card. Well, people aren't working for gift cards.
Mhm.
It's a meager, sad little attempt of church staff out there to bless volunteers, but it's just that's not going to do it. I think also retention. I use that word all the time. Don't get me
Mm,
wrong, but sometimes it comes out in this connotation of I'm trying to like hold you,
right.
and I no, I'd rather be a magnet,
Mm,
because of the value I add. Not I'm holding on to you. I'm retaining you.
right.
So I think it's that simple. Again, if you just add value, people will stick around. I feel like people run off and find something else to do when they get bored,
Mm,
um, and it's not for lack of activity. It's lack of production. They feel like, well, I mean, I'm here to do the volunteer job, but it's not very life giving. So I'm gonna go do the next thing. So then they
right.
fall out that way. Obviously, if they get frustrated or upset, burned out, um, which very much in quotes for me, I hate the word. But when they burn out, generally it's from a lack of fuel. They're not motivated. They can't connect themselves to the vision or the greater purpose, or they can't seem to figure out how they're making a difference. But that all can come back to like they're just not connecting to the value, and that's typically an inconsistency in the language from the leader.
Mm.
Would be one way I see that happens. But man, if you're just adding value, they're not going to leave the thing that provides them life, and that's a real simple thing to do.
No, it's great. I mean, I think about like how I've seen churches use like Psalm 92, those who are planted in a house will flourish, as an
Hmm.
excuse to hold people in
Yeah.
their church versus actually understand that like we're actually building a kingdom, not one church.
Right. Right.
And that to me is like a red flag central when somebody's because honestly, like as a leader, you should be releasing people. There should
Yeah.
be a level of dude, and honestly, like those who are planted in a house shall flourish. What is your house like able to flourish? There's a
Hmm.
whole
Hmm.
different side of the coin of like, is your house even flourishing?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, even for me, like the conversation of transition, and I even feel like that would be a good kind of segue here. Like for you, what
Yeah.
is like 2 or 3 indications of somebody is looking to transition or probably should transition?
Looking to transition and should. Well, those usually don't always line up.
Right.
I feel like sometimes we can tell that that person needs to transition sooner than they could tell, but then it's usually the opposite. We're afraid to say something, so we let them linger and
Mm,
suck the life out of the team for too long. So that's a conversation in itself, I guess. But um, oh man, it's probably a long list. A couple of simple things that stick out to me, though. I mean, you can tell in somebody's face when they're done.
yeah.
You can tell in their body language. You can tell how early they show up when they're excited. They're 15 minutes early, then they're 10, then they're 5, then they're right on time, then they're 5 minutes late with Starbucks in their hand. All right,
Yeah.
that person's probably ready to move on. That doesn't mean be fired from the job.
Right.
Hey, let's find a new role for you or a new schedule for you or whatever. But you can see on their face, in their countenance and their posture that they're
Mm,
probably ready to move from this. Now, I don't know that I'm moving somebody that fast though either, and I'm a fast mover. Um, but before I do that, I'm going to figure out like, wait a second, am I the cost of this? Is there a small change I can make to mitigate their lack of motivation, or I
mhm.
don't want them to fall off just arbitrarily.
Right.
So there's that. I so yeah, I could see it, man. When people should move off and transition to a new role, new anything, and that doesn't always have to be a negative thing. By the way,
Mm,
graduation. You've heard me probably say this, but like graduating is a positive thing. When you
right.
transition from high school to college, you graduated. So
Yeah.
transition doesn't have to always be negative. You need to graduate. You need to move on. Please don't stay in
Mhm.
high school till you're 22.
Right.
So, um, so that being said, though, I think I'm going to want to move somebody on at the end of the day if they're just not producing.
Mhm.
That's the 20, 21, 22 year old that somehow still in high school. How's that even a possibility? And they're bored out of their mind, but they're just like too afraid to get out and do the next thing. I'm okay, I'm gonna push you, I'm gonna help you graduate from this, to the next thing. And it might be on another church staff, it may be in another industry. It might just be you just land on the street and figure it out. And I'm gonna do you a favor by teaching you, from the School of Hard Knocks, whatever. But I think productivity is a big part of it. Now, hang on. One little clarifier. I don't know that it's always like they're not doing the job my way, therefore they need to move on. That's epic fail from bad leaders, immature leaders, insecure leaders that don't want to be, outshined essentially, or overshadowed or whatever. So it's not that, but I'm assuming people listening to this and watching this are smart, intuitive leaders, and they kind of know what we're saying here. You can tell when somebody's treading water and kind of starting to go under, when they're just, like, this is terrible. I'm just here to get a paycheck.
Right.
And I want to help them get to a place where they're fruitful and fulfilled. That's my definition of success, is where they're fruitful and they're fulfilled. Both of them, not one or the other, but both of those.
Right.
I want to help them faster, and hopefully it's with me. But if they can't, that's okay. No hard feelings. I want to move them on pretty quick.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I always love to ask this question with everybody's because it's so different, but like, what do you, because obviously as a great leader, you always have to be disciplined of some sort, something that you do every day, or a routine of some sort. What does your routine look like? Maybe on a weekly basis, or if it is the same thing every day, what does that look like?
So the main routine I have, I'm just going to stick with the morning. So I'm a morning person. I like to sleep. I'm happy to go to bed early and sleep for a very long time. At the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, I want to start out with intention. The morning is a big deal for me. So any routine I have is in the morning, and then it fades throughout the day. So all my intentions run sideways when I had a bad conversation, or I ate the wrong thing for lunch, or whatever, it starts to go sideways. But I can control almost everything in the morning. And so and I might as well maximize that. So I'm getting up at the same time every day. My alarm goes off about 4:55, 4:53. Actually, I try to do like random odd numbers. My brain somehow wakes me up before the alarm. I don't ever use an alarm. I usually wake up before it, which is weird. I make a certain drink every single morning. I'm on a keto lifestyle for the last 3+ years. So I make a certain drink every single morning. I'm out the door by 5:10. I drive. I use Planet Fitness because I can go to those all around the country. I meet a guy up there at Planet Fitness. We hit it for an hour. I'm back before the kids wake up. I wake the kids up. I was actually just texting a bunch of friends. I have a text thread of about 15 dads, and we just talk about dad stuff. And we were talking about this very thing this morning. But I want to set the tone for my kids. I believe that's a great father job, the job for the dad. There's a lot of power in that. So I set the tone. I wake them up calmly, quietly, kind of get them going, positive affirmation, physical touch, the whole bit. We make them breakfast, take them to school, or my wife might do that. Most of the time she does that because they prefer her to do that. And they get to school, and then I can start having my day, I take a shower, do my things. But that right there, I set the tone for myself. I get myself in a great spot. I help my kids get up, and my family and my wife, the same thing, get in that spot, because she's not an early riser. She will get up obviously to move the kids forward as well. But generally she'd sleep till 9 if she could and stay up late. So my routines are very much in the morning. And then one other little thing I do, and you've heard about it, and everybody has their version of this, I guess, but I've been converted in the last about 6 months to the Lectio 365 following. So that's my tool for personal quiet time, devotional time in the morning. Sometimes I'm doing that in the massage chairs at the gym. It's dark and quiet in there. So I feel like that's just a better place than my couch. But anyway, so that's also in there, and generally the same time, same flow every week, or excuse me, every morning. And that goes all the time. I mean, weekends, I'll generally try to stick to the same flow. And that's a routine that keeps me moving towards, again, the free time where I can flex. But I want that morning, or those parts of the day, to kind of get me off in the same rhythm.
No, and that's why I love asking that question, because everybody is so unique. Like I interviewed an artist yesterday. He's like a musician and producer, and he wakes up at like 9 p.m. and works till 3 a.m. because that's and of course he's a creative, so he has no schedule, no routine. But he produces something, and he's growing. His business is growing. I'm like, I don't understand, but I've led creatives. I've forced myself to be creative because I owned a marketing agency for like 4 years, but it's it just baffles me. My wife gets up at like 4:30 to wake up and go work out. I'm more of like a 6 a.m. kind of guy. Wake up 6 a.m., crush my Bible time, shower. I work out super random at 11, which and then I shower and I have a reset.
It's
So then
great.
I go right into my afternoon, and I'm an afternoon guy.
So man, I'm with you on the workout real quick. So at Elevation though, the headquarters is phenomenal. It's a great field trip for anybody who has the opportunity to go over there. Um, Mainly because it's intentionally built around the culture of Pastor Stephen in the church. It's not amazing architecture. There's fancier buildings that I would suggest have wasted money on cool looking, wall.
Right.
But over there we had multiple gyms. And so I would do the same. About 10:30 was my prime time to go in there for an hour and work out. It's a great time to work out with your team or with your people. So I'm with you on the midday workout stuff. If you have that job or that,
Yep.
like in that case, you have a gym at the office, or we had 2 gyms at the office. Like those kind of things are game changers. I'm with you on that. It doesn't fit my schedule now based on what I do or who I live with. But
Right.
I'm with you. I would prefer
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, we don't have kids. We don't even have a dog, so I'm straight for now.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're good. You're a
Right.
saint. Good for you,
So
man.
you must be a Cowboys fan, I assume. But yeah, we've talked
Uh,
about
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I'm from Texas, born and raised, and I
Right.
came of age in the '90s, man. So I was
Yeah.
6th grade when they got hot in the early '90s. So perfect time to become a fan. So yeah, now I'm stuck with it.
My dad went to school with Jay Novacek. So
Oh man, he's a hero.
yeah, 100%. I actually became a Cowboys fan though, because the most popular kid in 6th grade was a Cowboys fan. And I was like, well, I just got to emulate everything he does.
That's right, you do.
So I've had to just stick with it. I mean, it's not like you can be public with it. I feel like if you live in Texas, there's a right to enjoying the Cowboys. But I live in Nebraska. Like what do we have,
Yeah, I feel like the Cowboys though is everybody's team who doesn't have a team, especially if you're in those like Midwest, plain states or whatever. You're good, man. It's fine, but it's okay to also hate them all the time and talk bad about them. I post an equal amount of negative memes about them as well. So
all the teams that I liked growing up, I was called a bandwagon, but I've been consistent since 2001. Like no team has changed. So it's like stay loyal. None of them make sense at all, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Last couple questions, man. So I'm 23. I turned 24 this year. What advice would you give to a 23-year-old?
Just one thing. Holy crap.
It's different too, because like I would not say that I'm a typical 23-year-old. A typical 23-year-old is 1 year out of college. I've been leading for 7 years on a church staff. Like there's this kind of a difference.
Yeah.
But just a holistic view. Whoever's listening to this probably is not in that seat, but just some.
And can I give just a few quick hits? Like they don't have to be deep principles. Like let me start with the top 5. I mean, like first, well, excuse me, in no particular order. If you're not a millionaire by 40 just through smart, boring investing, man, I'm gonna burn your house down. What a waste if you're not a millionaire by 40. It's that simple and easy. I wish somebody would have told me at 23. I actually help and coach a lot of people on that now. A lot of my friends that work at Elevation still in their 20s and 30s. Again, common text thread, a lot of conversations around that. That is something for some reason is only reserved for old people. And I do not understand that. Sweet mother, start investing or saving now. That obviously not on my list, but I'm assuming we're already past that. Everybody needs to freaking be tithing and, live within your means and all the Dave Ramsey stuff or whatever. That's fine. Do all that. But I'm saying like from an investment standpoint, multiply your money, make your money work for you. I know that's not a Christian answer, but I also think it is a Christian answer.
Oh, it's great.
Secondly, man, get yourself a coach in everything you do. If one guy coaches everything you do, that person sucks. They're not a coach. But I'm saying if you're a preacher, then get you somebody that can coach you in preaching or communication. If it's just life coach stuff, get you somebody like that. If it's finance, get you somebody that's a finance coach. But most people find that out too late. Get you a freaking coach. Real quick, a Craig Rochelle podcast is not a coach. He's freaking brilliant. And if you get the chance to know him, good for you. But the podcast is not a coach. Carrie Newhoff podcast is not a coach. So find yourself a human being that you can go back and forth with and get a coach in whatever you need to be coached in. Then do that. That'd be a huge one.
Yeah.
I think an internal processor thing would be really good to just probably, it's almost like the opposite of, those people that do like morning confessions or something,
Right.
It's kind of like that, where I would say just consciously tell yourself, hey, listen, I'm not smart yet. And there, I guess you could call that be humble or something. I'm trying to give you something real specific. Like at 23, if you've accomplished what I know you've accomplished, that's great. So imagine what you could do.
Right.
So, everything's evaluated based on potential, not based on the comparison. So of somebody else. So I think it's just a good, healthy reminder of like, hey, listen, I haven't arrived yet. Maybe put a date on the calendar. Hey, when I turn 30, man, start throwing some, start having some swagger. Fine. But in my 20s, I wish somebody would have told me that. And I was oftentimes, matter of fact, Larry Bryce, when he used this phrase, I'd never heard this phrase till a meeting we had in Texas, and I was at the ripe old age of 27. He goes, "Oh, I see your problem. You've always been the smartest one in the room."
Mhm.
And if I said that, it sounds cocky. But when somebody else says it, it's like, frick, that's not a good thing.
Right.
And so it's just really good to know, because sometimes in your case, and there's other people listening who probably are legitimately the smartest one in the room, and that's not actually a great thing. So find you another room,
Yeah.
and tell yourself at least, and I haven't arrived yet, and that'll serve you really, really well, because you'll stay in that hunger mode of trying to do it. Number 4, I don't care that some people say there is such thing as a night person or a day person. No, the sun comes up, his mercies are new every morning, not every night at midnight.
Right.
So learn to be a morning person, because the stock market opens in the morning, breakfast places open in the morning. Your mom has always told you, your grandma always told you, nothing good happens after the sun goes down. That's true. So
Right.
I don't care if you're creative. I don't care if you're 23. I don't care if you have a night schedule, unless you have that night schedule that you do that job. But like, man, learn to be a morning person, because that's when the freaking world does things. So I'm just gonna say it, man. Grow up and
Yeah.
move towards like getting up and doing life during the day. And
Mhm.
then last but not least, please don't get fat.
Yeah.
Um, please eat good, live good, sleep good. You need your 8 hours. That's not an old man thing. That's a smart thing. All your hustlers out there, from Gary Vee to your Tom Brady's to your Jordans to your young athletes, whoever they may be in the moment, like they all go to sleep. They all eat well. They all live well from a body standpoint. And that is not taught, number one, in schools, and it sure as heck isn't taught in church. You can be
Right.
anti-abortion, anti-divorce, anti-everything, and pro-biscuit, and somehow that's okay. I
Right.
don't buy that. So, so yeah, and that's not genetics either. So
No.
definitely just like focus on your health, because it will come back to bite you. Everyone knows this, but they don't operate that way. And I had to play catch up and go in reverse and get back into shape. But that's my list of 5. That took too long to tell you that list, but that was a fun
No.
little list
It's
of things
great.
to talk about.
It's imperative. Like we think about, my wife and I always talk about this because it always fires me up, how we
Yep.
talk about like 3 sins as a Christian, but we don't ever talk
Yeah.
about gluttony. I've never
Nope.
heard a sermon about McDonald's, you know,
Ever.
and it's imperative because
Yeah.
literally anytime someone asks me for a quote unquote leadership advice, I go drink water. Like, I don't know.
Good.
Like
Good.
go on the treadmill for 15 minutes in the morning and read your Bible. You know, like it's
That's
so much
great.
more. Obviously, there's a spiritual side of things, but also it's
Yeah.
very practical. They go hand in
Hmm.
hand. Because
Yeah.
if you're over spiritual, bring it, you know, but you need to have
Yeah.
the practicals too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, is there any last words that you would give the viewers or myself before we wrap this up?
I mean, I probably should have put this on the list you just asked me, but I do think it's always fun to include in conversations. Is, your network's never too big.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get to know other people, reach out to people, DM some people, text some people you haven't talked to in a while, find some new followers. If you're a church leader, feel free to follow people who aren't Christian.
Yeah.
Not arbitrarily, that are just angry all the time. I'm not saying that, but if you're getting all of your church growth knowledge from other church people, that's a fail. Even the ones that you think are big and popular and famous, I can promise, having been in the meeting with those people, it's not the end all be all. So your network's never too big. So, reach out to some people, follow some new people, and again, get some coaching from those people, man. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
make your life better.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
I've even found the past probably 4 years of my life, like that has been the value
yeah.
of not only just myself and my confidence as a leader, but also just the knowledge I've been able to learn, or even like take something that you've said from a post and send
Mm,
it to a guy who's in
yeah.
Idaho, you know, and like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna follow this guy. Or
Right.
like there's this Webb which is funny.
Yeah.
That's got to be a logo someday, you know. But
That's right. That's right.
but I mean, just people who are constantly burnt out, aren't growing. Their church probably isn't growing. Their marriage is stagnant. They don't have friends, and they don't have a network. And it's, some people overcomplicate it. Like it's just about
Yeah.
value and being nice. Like Christians are the first people to throw that one out the window. It's like,
Yep.
just smile and say hi. Like,
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Easy.
Well, dude, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. I hope
Yeah.
that any viewer listeners had their notebooks out and soaked in.
Yeah.
You have. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, and I found him on LinkedIn. So
Please.
that's how
Is
our,
that really how we found each other?
Dude, you popped up on my feed the 2 times a year I go on LinkedIn,
I was
and
gonna say I'm on LinkedIn 2 times a year, so I've never heard that before. That's funny.
I just was like, I looked this guy on the gram, and I was like, whoa, he
Oh
posts a
man.
lot. So,
Okay.
man, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.